Destiny, the leader of Taliban Caliphate, debunked Elon Musk, the world's richest edgelord, tweeting from his gold-plated phone about how Social Security is a Ponzi scheme.
It's the tax revenue.
Elon, I'm going to destroy your argument in under 60 seconds.
Listen, I like some of Zach's stuff, but he won't destroy Elon's argument in under 60 seconds.
First of all, a Ponzi scheme is intentional fraud, and Social Security has paid on time full payments to all eligible recipients for the last 80 years. So,
yeah, it's not intentional fraud, but it's disingenuous to ignore his main argument, because in a Ponzi scheme, early investors are paid out from later investors' money, and there's no real assets in the scheme that are making money. So the scheme collapses when the contributions are not enough to cover the payouts. And
that's barely true. I would say that a Ponzi scheme is something that dramatically rewards early investors. So you're getting huge payouts for early investors, which is why future investors aren't able to sustain the payments, right? And they're intentionally set up to be fraudulent generally. So I think calling Social Security, even if for some reason we say it couldn't be funded in the future, a Ponzi scheme fails dramatically on those two grounds, but okay.
That's pretty much exactly what's happening with Social Security right now. Current retirees are paid out benefits from payroll taxes from current workers. And so the system will collapse when there's not enough payroll taxes going in to make the payouts. And everyone agrees that eventually that will happen. So in many ways, it is similar to a Ponzi scheme without the intentionality part. And further, the fact...
Also, I wish I could find this. I have to read this over again. What I read is that even if Social Security went absolutely bankrupt, like if the whole Social Security fund was robbed and it was totally bankrupt and it could only rely on incoming payments, that the lowest that would happen is like you'd be getting basically 60 to 75% of what you're owed for your Social Security paycheck, which would be bad, but it wouldn't be like nothing. But I don't know. I'd have to find that article again.
That we've paid out benefits on time for 80 years really has very little bearing on whether we'll be able to do so for the next 70 or 80 years. In fact, everyone agrees that we won't. So this is a disingenuous response to his main point.
No, it's not.
Somebody in chat saying 80 or 83%? Maybe it's that.
Ponzi scheme. Then you act like Social Security is guaranteed to run out of money, but there is a very simple way to stop that from happening, but you just don't like it personally. Lift the cap on Social Security taxes.
This is a very bad idea, and Elon himself wouldn't benefit one way or another if the cap stayed where it was or lifted.
Right now, every dollar you make over $170,000 a year is not taxed for Social Security, but if you were to lift this cap and put that tax on millionaires and billionaires like you, it would fund Social Security for another 75 years.
This shows a misunderstanding of what Social Security is and how it's taxed. So when you understand it, you'll understand why this is not a good idea. So number one, when you are a W-2 employee and you work for an employer, Social Security taxes are withheld from your paycheck, along with Medicare and typically some other things as well. But Social Security, 6.2% of your salary is withheld for Social Security. But that's not all that goes into Social Security when you're a W-2 employee. Your employer also covers the other 6.2% for a total of 12.4% of your salary that goes into Social Security up to the 168 and some odd cap. All good, right? Well, unfortunately in America, there are a lot of people that are not W-2 employees. They are self-employed. And so when you're self-employed, you are both the employer and the employee. And this is called self-employment taxes. It's not a new tax. Basically what it is now you are paying the full amount into Social Security and Medicare. So instead of just paying 6.2% into Social Security, 12.4% is taken out of whatever your income is up to that same cap. So there's been a lot of proposals out there to raise the Social Security cap, but usually it's like, hey, raise it to 250K or raise it to 300K. This would not affect people like Elon or other millionaires or billionaires whatsoever. But
I'm really curious, what is the average 1040 income of a millionaire or billionaire? Like, I'm sure we can find exceptional examples of people like Elon Musk or people like Jeff Bezos or whatever who take like a $1 salary. But is the average millionaire getting paid $10 and is taking everything in capital gains? Also, if we raise the Social Security cap, you'd be capturing a whole bunch more tax from high six-figure earners and from seven-figure earners who aren't necessarily like billionaires. Like, the idea that some people would still elude all of these taxes just because they get some type of like capital dividend instead or whatever is not, I don't think that's a good argument. But
who it would affect are small business owners and people that are self-employed that have to pay the full amount into Social Security as part of their self-employment tax and are not W-2 employees. Further, this does not fix the root issue with Social Security, which is a demographic one. There are fewer workers and more retirees. People are living longer. So it is a little bit more revenue at the expense of small business owners and people who are self-employed, while also not fixing the main root cause. And it probably won't even raise as much revenue as you think, because a lot of those small business owners who are currently, say, operating as an LLC will elect to be taxed as an S corporation, which allows them to give themselves distributions which are not subject to self-employment tax and would take more money off the table for Social Security.
But that would be illegal if you, that's just called tax fraud if you do that too aggressively, but okay.
Stop lying all the time, and if you really want to solve the problem, advocate to lift the cap on Social Security taxes so kind-hearted billionaires such as yourself can flip the bill to protect our seniors for the next 75 years. And
I mean, once you own everything you need and have a few $100,000 in the bank, why not take all future payments and investment options? Because not everybody has that option. What do you mean? Think of all of your high-paid your software engineers, your doctors, your lawyers, your like high-level employees, engineers. And like these people can't just say like, hey, can you just stop paying me like all my salary? I only want to be paid in stock options. Like not everybody has that option available to them.
Not make regular Americans pay our entire paycheck into the system while you only pay a minuscule fraction.
He's not lying. Distributions which are not subject to self-employment tax and would take more money off the table for Social Security.
So stop lying all the time, and if you really want to solve the problem, advocate to lift the cap on Social Security taxes so kind-hearted billionaires such as yourself can flip the bill to protect our seniors for the next 75 years and not make regular Americans pay our entire paycheck into the system while you only pay a minuscule fraction.
He's
entire paycheck?
Not lying. I just think you're not understanding how Social Security is taxed. Social Security taxes only apply to wages or other income. They don't apply to capital gains. They don't apply to other investments. And so most millionaires and billionaires earn the vast majority of their income through investments in companies or real estate or, capital gains on stocks, things like that. And so raising the cap to 250K or 300K would not mean one iota to Elon personally, but you're pretending in your argument that the only reason he doesn't want to do this is because of how much it would affect him personally. And he just doesn't make income that can be taxed on via Social Security, as with most millionaires and billionaires. Now, there are other ways to get at the wealth of millionaires and billionaires, but this suggestion here, as if it's a devious plan by Elon to pay less in taxes, just doesn't make sense. A far better solution to this problem would be to address it probably on the benefits side and do some type of means testing on the benefits where you look and see if people actually need Social Security. So someone like Elon Musk, who is eligible to collect Social Security at a certain age, he wouldn't get it, but people that really need it would get it.
I don't know how I feel about that. If I pay into it, I'm paying into it with the expectation that I'm getting it back.
The alternative of trying to address it as far as on income and raising the cap just doesn't make sense with how Social Security is currently taxed.
It's the kind of claim that sounds spicy enough to get retweets, but shaky enough to make an accountant cry. Enter Destiny, who, in under 60 seconds, or so he claims, promises to obliterate this argument with the kind of surgical precision you'd expect from a guy who debates flat earthers for fun. Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty, let's be clear. Calling Social Security a Ponzi scheme is like calling a public library a pyramid scheme because people keep borrowing books. It's not just wrong, it's wrong in a way that makes you wonder if the person saying it has ever opened a textbook or, talked to a retiree. So what's a Ponzi scheme? For those of you who didn't binge American Greed during lockdown, a Ponzi scheme is a scam where early investors get paid with money from later investors, with no real assets generating wealth. It's a house of cards built on lies, greed, and the kind of optimism that makes you think you can retire at 30 by selling herbal supplements. The key ingredients? Intentional fraud and unsustainable payouts that collapse when you run out of suckers. Social Security, on the other hand, has been paying out benefits on time in full for 80 years. 80 years! That's longer than most of us have been alive, unless you're a vampire or Keith Richards. It's not perfect, it's not fraud, and it's definitely not a scam designed to fleece grandma. But Elon's not entirely pulling this out of thin air. His argument, and the one Destiny's reacting to, hinges on a kernel of truth that's been twisted like a pretzel at a county fair. Social Security works by taking payroll taxes from current workers to pay benefits for current retirees. When there aren't enough workers to cover the payouts, the system could hit a wall. Fair enough. That's a real concern, especially with America's demographics looking like a pyramid that's been flipped upside down, fewer young workers, more retirees living longer than ever. But here's where Elon's argument goes off the rails. He's framing this as a Ponzi scheme, implying it's doomed to collapse in a cloud of broken promises and bad math. Destiny, with his trademark mix of snark and spreadsheets, begs to differ. And he's got a point, a big one. Social Security isn't a Ponzi scheme because it's not fraudulent, and it's not designed to reward early investors with obscene payouts. In a Ponzi scheme, the first guys in get mansions and yachts, while the latecomers are left holding an empty bag. Social Security. It's more like a communal pot where everyone chips in to make sure retirees don't have to eat cat food for dinner. The system's been chugging along since the 1930s, and even if the trust fund were to run dry, which, spoiler alert, isn't happening tomorrow, it could still pay out 60–75% of benefits just from incoming payroll taxes. That's not a collapse, that's a haircut. A bad one, sure, but not exactly Bernie Madoff territory. Now here's where Destiny really sharpens his knives. There's a simple fix to keep Social Security solvent for another 75 years, and it's called lifting the cap on Social Security taxes. Right now, you only pay Social Security taxes on income up to about $168,000. Earn $1 more, and poof, that dollar's tax-free for Social Security purposes. This means billionaires like Elon, whose income mostly comes from stock options, capital gains, and whatever loose change he finds in the Tesla factory couch, are barely contributing to the system relative to their wealth. Lift that cap, and suddenly the ultra-rich are pitching in to keep grandma's checks coming. It's not rocket science, sorry Elon, and it's not class warfare, it's basic fairness. But Elon and his defenders cry foul, claiming this would punish success and hurt small business owners. And this is where the argument gets stickier than a toddler's hands after a lollipop binge. Destiny's not buying it, and neither should you. The small business owner defense is a classic sleight of hand, like a magician pulling a rabbit out of a hat while you're distracted by sparkles. Sure, raising the cap would affect some self-employed folks who pay the full 12.4% Social Security tax because they're both employer and employee. But let's be real. The average small business owner isn't pulling in millions a year. The people who'd feel the pinch are high earners, think doctors, lawyers, tech bros, and yes, billionaires who actually take a salary. And even then, it's not like they're being asked to sell their private jets. We're talking about taxing income above $168,000 to fund a program that keeps millions of seniors out of poverty. If that's a hardship, I'd love to hear how they define struggle. But here's the kicker. Elon's not even paying into Social Security the way regular folks do. Most of his wealth comes from capital gains, stock sales, dividends, the kind of money you make when you're already rich enough to own half of Silicon Valley. Social Security taxes only apply to wages, not investments, which means billionaires like Elon are contributing a fraction of what a teacher or a nurse pays relative to their income. Destiny calls this out with the kind of glee you'd expect from someone who's just found a plot hole in a blockbuster movie. It's not that Elon's lying outright, it's that he's framing the problem in a way that conveniently sidesteps his own role in it. He's not saying, I don't want to pay more taxes. He's saying, Social Security's broken and raising the cap won't fix it. It's a dodge smoother than a Tesla on autopilot. Now let's talk about the demographic problem, because this is where Elon's defenders think they've got a checkmate. America's aging like a fine wine, or maybe more like a fine cheese, because it's getting a bit funky. People are living longer, birth rates are down, and the ratio of workers to retirees is shrinking faster than a cheap t-shirt in a hot dryer. This is real, and it's a challenge. But calling Social Security a Ponzi scheme because of demographics is like calling a marathon a scam because you might get tired. The system's not designed to collapse, it's designed to adapt, and lifting the tax cap, that's one adaptation, a big one. Estimates suggest it could fund Social Security for decades, giving us time to figure out other fixes like tweaking benefits or encouraging immigration to boost the workforce. But Elon's not here for solutions, he's here for headlines. And this is where Destiny's reaction really shines a light on the bigger picture. The Social Security debate isn't just about numbers, it's about values. It's about whether we think it's okay for a country as rich as ours to let seniors scrape by while billionaires pay less into the system than a barista. It's about whether we believe in a social contract where we all chip in to take care of each other, or whether we're cool with a free-for-all where the ultra-rich get to opt out. Elon's Ponzi scheme jab isn't just wrong, it's a distraction from the real question. Why are we letting the wealthiest among us skate by while regular Americans bear the burden? And here's where things get really infuriating. Elon's defenders, and there are plenty of them on X, trust me, love to pivot to the means testing argument. Why not just give Social Security to people who really need it? Why should Elon get a check when he's got enough money to build a literal moon base? It sounds reasonable until you think about it for like 5 seconds. Social Security isn't welfare. It's a program you pay into with the expectation of getting something back. If you start means testing it, you turn it into a handout, which makes it politically vulnerable. Suddenly, it's not a universal benefit, it's a program for poor people, and we all know how much America loves cutting those. Plus, administering means testing would be a bureaucratic nightmare, costing more than it saves. It's like trying to fix a leaky pipe by hiring a team of consultants to study the pipe for a decade. Destiny's not having it, and neither should you. The means testing argument is a shiny distraction, like a magician waving a sparkler while he picks your pocket. The real fix is simpler: tax the rich. Not because they're evil, not because they're stealing from the poor, but because they're benefiting from a system that's been propped up by regular workers for decades. Social Security's not a Ponzi scheme, it's a pact. And if we're going to keep that pact, we need everyone to pay their fair share, especially the guy who's planning to retire on Mars. Destiny's reaction cuts through this noise like a hot knife through butter. He's not just debunking Elon's lies, he's exposing the hypocrisy at the heart of the billionaire class. They love to talk about fixing systems, but only if it doesn't cost them a dime. They love to preach about innovation, but only if it means more money for them and less for everyone else. And they love to call Social Security a Ponzi scheme because it's easier than admitting they don't want to pay their fair share. It's not about economics, it's about power. So what's the solution? Destiny's got it right: lift the cap, tax the millionaires and billionaires who have been coasting on a system that's rigged in their favor. It's not a perfect fix, nothing is, but it's a start. And while we're at it, let's have a real conversation about how to shore up Social Security for the long haul. Maybe it's immigration to boost the workforce. Maybe it's tweaking benefits to prioritize those who need them most. Maybe it's a mix of things. But whatever we do, let's not fall for the Ponzi scheme lie. Social Security's not a scam, it's a promise.